But our video technology group is going to be a very fascinating group indeed. Like many people in the motorsports industry, our first guest didn't start his professional career in motorsports. An engineer by education, his love of motorsports brought him back home from Rivet Video Broadcasting, the experts in pay-per-view broadcasting. Chris Grainer.
Thank you.
Chris, tell us a little bit about Rivet, please.
So Rivet sort of is the product of probably 6 to 7 years of working in the local motorsports industry, mostly short track, dirt, asphalt. And over the years, we'd used a number of various solutions to deliver paid content, but generally pay-per-view. We've now done more subscription as well. And our product functions as a method for people to get out and deliver paid video to their fans. So we act a lot more like a startup, like a tech startup than anything else. And we also act a lot like consultants, media consultants, helping out the various stakeholders, whether they be a promoter or a broadcaster. We help those people develop their brands and deliver their content.
And our next guest, well, if you've never seen a Formula Drift event in person, you really cannot appreciate the grace, the excitement, the beauty of this sport. But this man did. I like to call this synchronized car dancing because that's really what you're doing. And it's just amazing to watch your athletes, your extreme drivers in action. 13 years ago now? Is it about to be 14? How many?
15.
15 years ago. Holy cow. Time is flying. From Formula Drift, it's Jim Lau. Tell us a little bit about the Formula Drift story, please.
Yeah, amazing, right? We're coming on season 15 in 2018, and we brought the sport from Japan, and I think being in an American marketplace, I think we globalized it. Now there's drifting in all forms in many states as well as many countries across the world, even to the likes, double-edged sword of the likes of the FIA. Have caught their attention, and I currently sit on the FIA Drifting Working Group, and hopefully in contributing and guiding the global rules and regulations for drifting.
And a lot of manufacturers are now discovering that it's a cool way to show off a new car. The Kia Stinger out there at SEMA was a great example.
Yeah, we need many more, though. Ford and Toyota are kind of the benchmark. Manufacturers are involved, actually have factory programs with a number of teams. We were brought on as kind of consultants and organizers of the drifting part of the Kia Stinger launch at this year's SEMA show. So, we do a little bit of everything.
Let's welcome Jim. And our last guest on this panel, like many from the old Speed Channel, you kind of had to find another place to do your craft. But boy, have you done it. Helping grow the old National Speed Sport brand into a digital force. Let's welcome Joe Tripp.
Thanks, Dennis, and all the work you've done in putting this together, and to Tim Frost for inviting us to help sponsor this program and participate in this panel. Just a little bit about my background. As Dennis said, not all of us in motorsports started out that way. Always had a passion for two things, technology and motorsports. Did a little bit of fairly poor motorcycle racing when I was a kid, but always had a passion for hot rods and race cars and that. And one thing led to another, and I had an opportunity to go to work for Speed back in 2005. Spent 5 years there, ended up as director of digital there, left in 2010 to start a consulting career in business development and digital media. One of my first and largest clients was Corinne Economaki, who at the time was the owner and CEO of National Speed Sport News. I was running the digital media side at Speed prior to that, so I was familiar with National Speed Sport News, familiar with the editorial process and technology. And my big things at that time, everyone in these conferences was talking about social media, video, all of these emerging, technologies that were really crucial to growing a business. Corinne came to me, and it was actually at PRI, came to me and asked if I would help her with their business. And at that time, and it had been for nearly 80 years, National Speed Sport News was a weekly newspaper. No website, no social media, nothing. So it was really an exciting time for me. And it was an opportunity with the direction that you can kind of see the writing on the wall with what Fox Sports was going to do with speed. So, and I wanted to move back. My home is in Montana, so I wanted to move home anyway. So went out on my own consulting with Corinne as one of my first clients, and we worked real hard to build her a website, get social media going, train the salespeople, really get that thing turned around. But ultimately, her goal was to get out of that business. So I put together, Ralph Shaheen and I and others put together a little plan, and we ended up being able to acquire it for her. And at that time, we really didn't know what the heck we were going to do with it. We just knew that we didn't want to see National Speed Sport News go dark. We felt like with what was happening in the industry and what was happening with Speed Channel, that there was going to be a vacuum there. I'd like to say that we planned it that way, but you could really see where things were going, and we really felt like, if we could take this venerable brand, polish it up a little bit, and make it relevant for the modern age, that we would have an opportunity to do something special there. So we're 5 years into it now. We're still learning. We kid ourselves that we're, two guys in a printing press, but really we have accomplished our goal of being a media company. That we still have the magazine. We've actually acquired a Sprint Car and Midget magazine here a few months ago, another great product in this space. But really our business is integrated, media across every platform. So it's the magazine is sort of the cornerstone, if you will, but also television, digital media, social media, and the gamut. So as we're working with tracks and promoters, sponsors, sanction bodies, the industry in general, we look at all of those different things that all still fit under the Speed Sport banner, but looking at a variety of different platforms and solutions to get our messages across.
Okay, guys. Oh, let's hear it for Joe. All right, guys. I'm going to throw this first question out to you, Chris, but I know Jim, you and Joe will both have a lot to say on this topic as well. How can we all do a better job of working together? And by that, I mean content producers, companies like yourself that are getting the video out there, and as importantly, the venue owners, because they need to make some money off of this, so they're reassured that it's not going to hurt their bottom line. How can we learn to work better together?
It's a complicated question, mostly because it depends on who's here in the audience and what economic perspective that they're approaching this. You're running the gamut from the local racetrack owner and promoter all the way on up to, we've got Formula Drift here, which functions very different from that local promoter. So everybody's economics are going to dictate how they answer this question. But to me, the question you are answering is, I need to find a way to market my product. And I'm going to blend my economics so that I can market that product. So at the local short track level, what we do a lot of is we help them monetize their product through video, and they're usually doing pay-per-view or subscription, and then that feeds back to whoever is there. Our main clients tend to be a lot of guys who are camera guys and video guys. So it's paying for them to be there, and hopefully they make a little bit of money, and then they spit that back to the promoter as well. When you run into all the way to the other gamut, and he's going to probably speak more to this, Formula Drift probably has an ability to sell back as a power sport. You have another product on the other side of this where they can be marketing consumer brands that can be purchased. So they can shift over, and then there's more opportunities there for pushing stuff to a variety of free delivery mechanisms so that they can be selling those products. But you're going to have a gamut, and I don't know if I'm doing the greatest job of answering the question, but you have a lot of options. That's, I guess, more than anything else, realize there are many options that are available, and you should spend some time understanding the trade-offs of those options and not just shutting it down as, oh, it's video, it's complicated, it's expensive, those cameras are very expensive, the people are very expensive, I just don't want to do anything with it. That's what I have a tendency of dealing with those sort of folks and walking them through a process of, here's how we can make it work for you, and you have a number of options.
And Joe, there are some content producers out there that play nice, and there's others that don't play nice when it comes to different venues.
Which one were you referring to us as?
I take the fifth on that one.
Well, there's the gamut. There's for sure, and I think one of the things, that you probably are sensing in this conference is there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. There's a gamut of opportunity and challenges. A very good mentor of ours, as Ralph and I were embarking on this project, told us, he said, look, there's two things that can go wrong, and one is you won't have enough opportunity, and he said the other thing that's much worse is that you'll have too much. So for us, as we kind of approach speed sport as golden retrievers, and I think as racetrack promoters, when you tackle a project, you may do that. And the analogy there is you tend to want to chase every squirrel that comes down the trail, and I think the key to being successful is focusing on things that are core competencies for your facility or your series, and executing on those really well. That would be one. I think another one is making partnerships to help you scale your marketing operation. Find credible partners that are really good. You don't have to be an expert at video, at media, at selling tickets, timing and scoring. There are partners out there that you can do if you need that. During the previous session, we were talking about empowering your staff and all of this, and I was kind of giggling to myself because I know racetrack operators, they are the staff. So trying to figure out how to master analytics or negotiate contracts, it's all pretty daunting. So I think the key there is finding and developing great partnerships will help you with that.
And Jim, you're in a unique situation because you own the brand, you own the series, yet you've still got to take good care of the revenue from the events. Otherwise, you're not going to have anyone who's going to want to have you back. How do you work together well with a facility or with another outing? Because a lot of times you're sort of a warm-up act for a racing event if you're not a standalone event. How do you work well with the venue operators to be a good partner?
Yeah, I think we are in a really unique situation because we had the opportunity from early on, so we capture and own all of our content. So we have the ability to distribute, to give, to disperse however we like. We have our archives back to season 2. And at the venues, we don't work in a traditional format where it's venue and paid, sanctioning fee, and the promoter, the track works with us and we come. So in that sense, we are renting facilities outright in most cases. So how we work with a facility is, fairly unique. But I think where we're working at is facility infrastructure. So a lot of the things that have been covered all day, ticketing to now content, it's really about how can we work together to feel that we're infusing revenue, not only to the facility but to the city, that we can work on a long-term arrangement so that we are showing our commitment so that there's facility improvements that are slowly added on. Our main thing, as we talk about with millennials, with social media, with content streaming, with ticketing, is all connectivity. The biggest, I would say one of the biggest hurdles that we have with facilities and facilities that we go to is a lack of connectivity. And without connectivity, without broadband internet, without broadband speed, at least what we do completely fails.
Joe, Chris Economaki put together just the most amazing collection of storytellers from all over the country. I enjoyed reading those stories. I wanted to know more about not just who finished first through 10th in a race. I wanted to know, did the PA posse get those World of Outlaw guys, and how did they do it? I wanted to learn about these characters in the sport. Do fans today still want to learn about the characters? Do they still want to have a story told to them about our heroes? Or is that so old-fashioned?
I think that's a great setup for a couple of different ideas here. One is I think the answer to that is yes, and I think the data would back that up. And I would say from two different angles. Number one is, we're in the business of creating and marketing content and leveraging that to create relationships with the industry. So having a Hall of Fame roster of writers and contributors is crucial. In this information age, data can almost be a commodity. You can find news, who won, what, where, when on social media. And so when we might transition away from the newspaper to a monthly, largely that was for one of those reasons. If you didn't get your newspaper till Thursday, the news was old news. But there was an awful lot of that newspaper that now is really what the magazine is. That's that feature content. It's that storytelling done by that really all-star cast of characters in their own right that are helping develop and tell those stories. As a marketer, as a racetrack promoter, I think those stories are crucial to bringing new people into the sport and helping them understand, the relevance and the provenance of what you've got going there, whether, it's a small town regional track or a major national series. Those characters are crucial to your long-term success and getting people to want to not only keep coming back, but also to, when they're not there, to be following what's going on with my heroes at that series.
You mean we do have modern racing reporting talent out there and not just cut and paste guys?
Absolutely.
Only over at Speed Sport, that's where you'll find it. Chris, how can you work that whole storytelling mode into providing better pay-per-view coverage of your races? Because just watching a bunch of cars going around on my television screen or my computer monitor ain't going to do it for me. How can we sort of learn that we have to use that same storytelling mode or story method, but just in a different mode?
Well, our template that we've developed over the years for being successful with pay-per-view or with subscription content really focuses on the marketing and leveraging social media more than anything else. You need to let people know, A, that this thing exists if you're doing a pay-per-view, and B, you need to let them know who's there and develop storylines. So one of the early things we do with, we take a lot of fresh guys that are quote-unquote video guys, whether they're been camera ops at some point in time or they've just had interest at the local track, and we try to develop them into people that can shoot B-roll, get that content on Facebook, tell a little bit of story, get them to recognize stories, get them to follow through with stories. A lot of what we do actually has nothing to do with the tech of video. It has to do with the consulting of helping them understand that you're not just producing, throw on the switch and there's going to be a pay-per-view and people are going to show up. Because the long-term success depends on the storylines. Without the storylines, we have nothing. That's what people are there for. And in every form of motorsport that we've done, that is consistent, from demolition derby all the way over to drag racing, to snowmobile racing, to local short track. It is always the storylines that make something sell. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're just in paid content. It's going to be the same if it's free content that it's available. What makes I'm pretty sure that what you're going to say is what makes it work for you is the guys who have the best storylines. That's what really gets people interested, and that's what makes it happen.
And that's what my first exposure to Formula Drift was, going to Irwindale Speedway for a race and seeing you guys perform to promote an event. But what really amazed me was the intense loyalty of your fan base, because they knew a couple of your drivers were going to be out there for autograph appearances. They have no interest in stock car racing. They bought a ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I think the storylines that we're talking about is critical, not only for kind of near-term, immediate benefit, but definitely for long-term benefit. You know, when we looked at having an open paddock, having more behind-the-scenes storylines, is not because we knew that there was immediate benefit from it, but because we are a new sport. We have athletes that have a helmet on that, aside from, hey, I like that car, I like the graphics, I like the color, that will only last for so long. But beyond that, you need to find a emotional connection with a particular driver that you want to support. And I think without telling those type of storylines, we don't have that opportunity for that. And so again, opening access to meeting who the drivers are, working with drivers to engage fans, and obviously on the media side to be able to tell their story, whether it's in the New York Times or whether it's in the Brazelton Gazette or whatever it is. I think all that is very valuable.
And now I'm not going to give Jim a chance to rest, because the next question starts out with you, because again, Formula Drift, great coverage on CBS Sports Channel in sort of a more compacted way, I guess. It's a great presentation to present your sport. But here's the question for all of you, but starting with Jim: does being on real TV even matter anymore?
Well, yeah, interesting, right? We have to evolve, even us, and we think we're kind of the tip of the spear sometimes, but I think we're not. I think the content landscape, media landscape is ever changing and changes very, very quickly. What we thought we were ahead of a year ago, we can fall behind very quickly if we're not on top of things. Your question about real TV, I think. We're for us especially, because we're a millennial heavy audience. We have to evolve, I think, much faster. Being on TV is valuable, really, from a sponsor standpoint, a perception of legitimacy, a perception that the sport stands because we have a 20-episode TV show on sports, on CBS Sports Network. But really, where our screen one. Where many say screen one is TV, screen two is your mobile device. Our screen one is really our live stream. That's the bread and butter of how we get our content out, how we get our message out, how we build our fan base. I mean, last night, I'm flipping through the TV at the hotel, and I can access my Netflix on my TV hotel screen. So it's coming, it's happening, and there is not a difference. It won't be a difference between real TV and internet TV. It will just be, hey, I can watch it on my 50-inch at home, and it doesn't matter where it's coming from, just as long as it comes out with clarity and with consistency, I can get it.
And that's really the answer. The definition is changing. The definition of what TV is not what we conventionally thought of as the definition of TV that's always linear. I still think that there's options for linear television for sure, but you're going to just have any gamut of options that are available to the viewer's need for consumption. We spent a good amount of time focusing on developing Roku channels for our clients this year, and the main reason we do that is it gives them the option, that viewer the option, to flop down on their couch and have a different interaction with the content than we had before when we were only a connected device sort of product. So now that they can plop down at 7 o'clock and pull up, like they would Netflix, pull up the channel and check out whatever, sort of content they want to have. And we're talking a lot about video, and the term streaming comes up so much, and people sort of think of that in a less than television thing. I just call everything broadcasting now. I stay away from any sort of definition being there, because it's really where we're going. We've sort of finished the first generation of what this streaming thing was, and now it's blending in. And there's a lot of tech stuff happening in the background with protocols and all this stuff that nobody cares about and is going to get glazed eyes about. That will make that even happen faster. Your experience with television is going to be very different in the next 10 years in a good way, and it gives a lot of opportunity to everybody here. It's just going to be finding the right partnerships, which have been brought up, so that you can make that happen.
Joe?
All good points. I think based on the question you posed, Dennis, I think as of right now, the definition of TV and is that important, I think it depends, but I believe it absolutely is if used correctly. It provides scale, it provides credibility, access to sponsors you may not otherwise have, and an example of how we use it is we'll take a particular race series or a track that has a marquee event, and we'll say, let's put that marquee event on TV. Let's package it for a 1-hour show, tell those stories, develop that, but then use it as a way to promote your weekly show. So and maybe that's a pay-per-view show. Very few venues or tracks, promoters, sanctions that we work with don't have their own some sort of pay-per-view, or streaming opportunity. So you can mix the media. You can have streaming show, you can have television. I think today it's still very relevant to be on a network or a cable channel, but it is evolving as we've talked about. The thing for me always has been when it gets to the point where it's a TV-like experience for the consumer, it's a remote control, it's a flat screen TV and a push button. I don't have to log in. I don't have to, create an account, do all that. I can just click a few times on my remote. That's what's happening now. That the whole over-the-top thing, the numbers speak for themselves, and the cancellations of DirecTV and cable channels. So it's still relevant. It's still important, but it's evolving very quickly, and the lines are blurring. So. And
I'm still screaming for my MAV TV, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah. Really.
Doggone
Keep it
you,
up.
Comcast.
Get.mavtv.com.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and throw out a toss-up question here, but before I do, I also want to invite questions from the audience. If you got one, raise that hand high, because I want to see the question so I can get you the microphone. But my question is pretty simple and right to the point, and it's going to be thrown out here as a toss-up question for whoever wants to wrestle it first. Does quality matter when it comes to video, and especially pay-per-view?
I've probably done the most pay-per-view. So it really depends on your market and the market expectations. Most power sports markets expect free content, and they expect it to be in a higher quality. There are other markets that will be happy with standard definition as long as it's reliable and the audio is good. It just depends on your market, and you have to understand your market. There's no clear answer. You need to know what's been done in your market and what the expectation is to really know. Jim had brought up the issue of connectivity at a facility. If we don't have connectivity, we really don't have a choice. So if we don't have reliability with an internet infrastructure, we're going to go with whatever's reliable, because there's nothing worse, at least in my world, than a failed video broadcast, because it becomes bad fast.
Joe, isn't that quality all part of telling the story well? Because if I have a lousy writer, he's not going to tell me any story. If I've got a lousy video, it's not telling me anything, except that the videographer is lousy.
Well, right, that's exactly right. So the question of quality is: are we talking about the quality of the video stream, the production itself, or are we talking about the quality of the storytelling or the quality of the racing, right? Or the user experience? How easy was it for me to log in and get the pay-per-view or whatever? Personally, I in this day and age, one of the things that technology is extremely approachable now. In this day and age, poor quality is, in my view, is unacceptable. If you can't produce a good product, you shouldn't even try, because it just, the technology is so approachable this day, just basic fundamentals, and you can put out a decent product if you don't try to overshoot the mark, based on what your bandwidth is, what your capabilities are, how big your staff is, what you've got for equipment, match it to that and deliver good quality across all those metrics I talked about, and deliver it to the appropriate and through the appropriate platform to the appropriate audience.
Jim, the first time I saw a video of Formula Drift, I was just caught staring because it was so sensational. Would you be here celebrating 15 years in the business if you ever settled for less than great quality?
No, not at all. But I think both Chris and Joe pointed out it's a pretty fluid situation, understanding your audience space, because just 7 years ago we flipped on one camera live stream, and that was our live stream, and fans were ecstatic that they were able to see what one of our events without being on site and without waiting for the television show to broadcast. Now, fast forward, 7 years later, there's one little, to your point, one little bandwidth glitch because the microwave points moved because of the wind, and we lost connection for a little bit, and the entire drifting community is freaking out because there's not enough this, it's not streaming fast enough, I'm having trouble on this player, you guys don't have enough graphics. So the audience evolves and their appetite evolves, so understanding that and being able to kind of keep up with that. But one tangent point to back to the TV thing and regarding qualities, doing this type of content, doing streaming and kind of new media type of content is also much more attainable and much cheaper. We've been fortunate that I think, again, we've scaled up. The series has scaled up because technology has been moving so fast. And so what we're doing now would not have been doable with our budget range and budget constraints if this was 15 years ago.
And you had the benefit of having a lot of people that wanted to photograph, wanted to do video of your action that were just fans too. And that really helped but that same thing you can find out in your local communities too. You can find those racing junkies that really want to tell the story and want to get their foot in the door that way.
Yeah, it may require a little bit more work because you have to supervise them and train them, manage them better. But many of those that have come through the series are now, quote unquote, mainstream, photographers and videographers in the marketplace because they were younger at the time. They were at the cusp of new things, the way they shot, integrating things like Red Camera, just being on the forefront of, look, this is the new thing that came out. Look, we have GoPro cameras out. How do you use GoPros instead of other traditional cameras on board, things like that, even utilizing drones. A lot of younger, prosumer type of media enthusiasts or young guys are adapting to that faster, and so they came through, and now they're onward to other things.
My question actually follows up with what you're talking about, Jim, and we're constantly being told that social media is the way to go, that you have to do social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. My question is, when you first started with these programs, what were some of your pitfalls or things to avoid and lessons learned that throughout the years of using these platforms?
Yeah, for us, it's the quality versus quantity. I don't think everything is for everyone. You can. I think you can get tempted very quickly. Oh, everybody's doing Instagram, so we'll do it. Everybody's doing Twitter, so we'll do it. Everybody's doing Snapchat, we'll do it. You get caught in that, and you're starting to do everything, but you're not doing any of it with quality, and you're not doing it with the storytelling, with the right content, with the quality that needs to be delivered. Again, it's understanding where your client base, your audience base is, and really honing in on a few outlets and a few programs to really support and get behind and do those well.
There we go. Just a general question. What strategies do you use to boost your at-event attendance with your live stream and vice versa?
Yeah, I think really it's the integration of it all. A lot of times we've seen, and we've been at fault for doing that, where you're focused on, hey, we're posting on social media, but what does that really do? Are we driving that to something else? Are we driving that to ticket sales? Are we driving it to a sponsor message? Great, we're live streaming to a whole bunch of fans that are logging and watching. We're tracking, but what are we telling them? Are we telling them that there's also the CBS sports show that they can tune in and they can DVR? Are we telling them that tickets for next season goes on sale on X date? Are we telling them those messages interstitially throughout our programming? If we're not doing that, then aside from, hey, there's a great live stream and a lot of people are watching, you haven't really benefited yourself in doing that.
It really depends on your partner and what their desirables are from the content. So, and for us, we have a lot of broadcasting clients, so they are one step away from us, but we encourage them to find out, especially in our case, mostly local short tracks, what do they need so that they can have more success at their event. But overall, what video to me is about is creating some sort of continuity in the experience so that when that person can't make it to the event that's at Irwindale Speedway, they have an option of staying connected to your content somehow, some way. So in itself, it is a solution, but then it's stepping up and finding other creative methods. Everybody loves Facebook Live, so we have a good number of our clients that will broadcast that in advance of the events, not just the live stream, so that if there's some sort of pre-event where, whether it be something that's qualifying or maybe there's an additional meet and greet with drivers or whatever it may be, that is getting broadcast somewhere, someplace, so that you can develop some sort of further reach with an event. But it really depends on a case-by-case basis. But you have, back to my original comment, there are many options with video because you have so many ways to get out there, and there are only going to be more. You just have to find the right people to work with so that you can deliver those consistently.
I'll be real quick, Dennis. I think you got to look at it as layers. Social media, short form video, highlights, your website, your pay-per-view, television, whatever, and look at it from the standpoint of what are the objectives of all these layers, and is it monetization? So am I increasing my overall revenue by monetizing these different layers correctly? And the other thing is, are these things supporting my ultimate goal of driving more revenue, getting more people here to the event? One thing that's really encouraging for us in the media business, especially those of us who still have print products and things, is analog experiences are in a resurgency. The Gen, what are we up to? Gen Z now, I think it is. They're actually buying books. They're actually going to events where they can get mud on their boots and experience things. They haven't invented smell-o-vision yet, as far as I know. And for those of us who are passionate about racing, there's nothing better than nitro exhaust. There's nothing better than getting covered in dirt at a dirt track. And so if there's ways, as we've talked about, is Pay-per-view is great. It's a way to extend, your footprint, create new fans, get people who can't be at the track there, but there's no replacement for that analog experience. And so talk about that. Your strategy is to use all of these different layers to help develop to help achieve your overall goals and to drive people where you want them to be, which if it's a case of getting them at the event, that's what you want to talk about.
We're going to do this last round a little bit different. Everybody's had a chance to pick what they wanted to say for their final thing to share with the class today, but I'm going to break my rules, and I'm going to force feed you one. Jim, what advice would you have for racetrack promoters and those trying to reach a larger audience to be successful doing that using video technology?
First, I think to not overcomplicate trying to tackle this issue. And I think, too, is really also not fall into the trap, like we said earlier, because there are many things trending, because there are always new things coming to the forefront. That does not necessarily mean that you have to do them, and you have to do them all. Again, really kind of hone in on what your capacity and capability are able to handle, and really hone in on a few and just focus on that alone.
Chris?
Same. I think that's the best answer. No, really, it would have been my answer, but I think it is the correct answer. Don't overcomplicate things, because much of what will come to you will be, as a promoter, you're going to get a pitch from somebody, a video guy, that's going to say, hey, we can do this for you. And they're going to tell you how all these great things are going to happen. And you need to understand the details of that, and if it's really going to be executed in a way that benefits your business. And if it looks very complicated, and it also looks like it's outside of your budget, it probably will be. Start small and accomplish some of your minor goals and build from that. That's exactly what you did, right? I mean, they started small, and they built from there something that works well. And the biggest successes happen that way.
Joe?
Don't get caught up in the technology. It's overwhelming. As a technology guy, it can be, and even if you've got the budget to be on the bleeding edge of that, it isn't necessarily where you want to be. All of the technology is really just a tool or tools for you to use to get your story out. You've got to tell your stories and develop, those relationships with the fans to make it relevant, make it matter that they follow your series, that they come to your track. Technology is just a tool. Don't get wrapped up in, I've got to have a drone, or I've got to have a GoPro on every corner. What do you need to tell your story? Who can you partner with to help tell your story? What platforms can you use to make that happen? That's really the most important thing.
What did we learn during this segment, other than the fact that we could have had twice as long of a segment and never run out of content with these gentlemen? We learned that video is hard to do right. The key there is right. It's easy to do a video nowadays with everybody carrying a device that can do so, but it's hard to do it right, but it really pays off as a successful marketing tool to sell your product. I love this line from earlier. Key to being successful is executing well on the things you do well. I'm going to take that and twist it a little different way with your don't get caught up in the latest gadget. Use what you have and just do it well, and you'll be more successful. And also, fans still want a story. The fans that were becoming diehard fans back in the 60s are really no different than those that are now coming to age in the 2000s. They all want a story, but you can build the local heroes into the story in your market. And using technology is one way to accomplish that goal. Let's hear for our video technology panel.